Mike here with That's Good Enough For Me.com. We're doing our Who's Zoomin' Who series. I am with 3/7 of Flying Raccoon Suit. How are you guys doing?
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Doing great,
good.
man. I fucking love fractions. You have no idea, dude.
Can you break that down to a percentage for me then?
I don't love them like I'm good at them, you know?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna start right off with your album before my 3 subscribers switch to the next interview with Sum 41, who people have heard of before.
Can I jump over there and listen to that? Because I'm hyped as fuck about that. Yeah, let's get real.
Your album Afterglow came out last month. I'm a big fan of it. It's a journey through just several waves of ska, in my opinion, and I find it to be brilliant. I wanted to talk about how this project was initiated, how this album was put together, especially during this dog shit of a year that we just experienced. Andrew, I'll let you start.
We were talking about this a little before it started, but we used to be kind of a different band because we were sort of just like a bunch of high school friends, like playing music for fun, not really trying to do a big thing with it. And that fell apart when people start moving away and everything. And we sort of restarted with our current lineup around 2016. And since then, we've been slowly building up like this bank of songs, and we record everything ourselves. So, just over a period of years, we had enough, but it was time for an album.
Great. Now, Jessica, I've kind of touched on this in like a bunch of interviews that I've had lately. You're surrounded by white dudes right now, obviously, but I'm celebrating the fact that, 10, 15 years later, there's no such thing as like the band with the girl in it being the genre. Fucking pisses me off. I wanted to know if you wanted to elaborate on that a little bit.
Okay, well, let me just start off by saying I'm not Haley Williams. Everybody wants me to be. I don't know how many times, like after a show, a bunch of frat boys will come up to me and be like, "Hey, you remind me of that chick from that band, what's her name? Haley from Paramore." I'm like, yeah, I don't see it.
I have to back you up a second. No frat boys go to our shows. Calm down.
Yes, they do. Curly. And you and Josh have had to protect me from them. Do you not remember? But no, it's great being like, not different anymore. Like Catbite, Best of the Worst, they're all killing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I got to interview Lynn from Bad Cop, and she told the story about carrying her giant ass bass cabinet that's like taller than her. And some guy stopping her in the street and being like, "Are you carrying your boyfriend's gear for you?" And she's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, that happened to me at a show one time. Like I was carrying my melodica case, just walking with the guys, like a normal person. And the guy stops me. He's like, "Hey, $5 cover charge." I'm like, "Okay, well, let me go set my instrument down first." I don't know.
Hell yeah.
The girlfriends don't get in for free, It's like, man, fuck off.
Yeah. He stopped me in particular. Just, hey.
Yeah. And I think that, ska as a genre has kind of had an inclusive, more of an inclusive environment for gender and race and stuff. I think that's what turned me onto it in 1997. You know what I mean? But it's amazing looking back now, listening to all of these newer punk and ska bands and just seeing how much the demographic has changed. And I'm really proud of it. I think you guys should be too. I wanted to talk about Afterglow's just kind of general flow. It's 12 songs, but it's all over the map. I mean, you are appreciative of, the two-tone, straightforward, floor to the floor stuff that, some purist is going to be a giant asshole to you guys about. But you're also, you're into ska core and all sorts of stuff in between. Do one of you want to just kind of start off on that?
I just have to say, we are just into music in general. I mean, we like all kinds of weird stuff all over the place. Like, polka. We incorporated some of that in there. And it's kind of like we put together what we want to hear and kind of made it our own. So.
Yeah, there's kind of two sides to like the songwriting where sometimes we'll like legitimately set out to make a specific song. Like, for example, at a practice years ago, Jess was like, dude, let's do a fucking surf song. And we're like, cool, let's do it. Hashed it out, and bam, we had a surf song. But then other times it's just straight up, Andy has more of a background in ska than most of us in the band, and he's like the core songwriter. So it's like I don't think we kind of set out to like touch like let's do like this third wave thing or the ska core thing. It's more like Andy kind of just writing a song, and then we all kind of are like the building blocks on top of that.
Exactly.
That's kind of how all the different genres that we play with kind of come about, because like notoriously not really like a ska like enthusiast. Like I just recently in the past couple of years really got into the genre, even though I've been in a fucking ska band for a decade. So that's kind of like how it works for us. So a lot of the stuff that I hear Andy write, I'll put my spin on it, is generally like I like more like a heavier style music. I'm into like more prog rock and metal stuff, and it ends up gelling pretty well, because I mean all of us in the band have great like chemistry together, and that's just our sound.
Yeah, and I think that's a sentiment to all of you as friends, and of course if you're recording the record yourself, you don't have anybody telling you what to do. So
yeah,
but it kind of winds up a little bit of energy that I think you wouldn't have gotten anywhere else, which makes the album really unique to me. I wanted to talk about Joystick. So I know that there's this weird kind of incestual relationship between the two bands. I found out about Joystick because I follow Zach Quinn in Pairs, and he was in their new music video. So I said, holy shit, there's this fucking ska band in New Orleans. And then I listened to your band like immediately after and was like, what the fuck is going on in the swamps? So let's talk about the cross between Joystick and Flying Raccoon Suit.
Well, one of the things was so New Orleans is obviously the city with like a really prolific music history, but you very rarely find people that are both a horn player and really into punk rock. So when Flying Raccoon Suit was starting out, like as a group of high school friends, we got some of our first shows ever playing with Joystick over in New Orleans. And you mentioned Pairs, like we played with those guys and several of their other bands, like Brian Pretis and Pairs used to have the ska band Dead Legends. We played bills with them and stuff like that. But yeah, there came a point where their horn players couldn't play for like a year or so or do tours or anything because of school. So they called me and were like, can anybody in FRS fill in? We have to play this festival in Atlanta. And me and our trumpet player at the time, Scott, filled in with them for this Mass Ska Raid festival. And then I became a permanent member after that. And yeah, we've been sharing like shows and, oh, you need a sax player for a track, take ours, sort of stuff. And it's been great. Clay has filled in with us on bass, Clay from Joystick. Yeah, it's awesome. And we're all really good friends with those guys too. And New Orleans is only like an hour away from where we're located in Mississippi. So
that's what I was going to ask. Yeah, I would assume it would be close to someone that lives in a state that takes fucking 12 hours to get through. It's easy to forget about stuff like that. But yeah, great projects. I really like both of them. Both of them have very different vibes too, which is nice. Yeah. But yeah, I got to speak with Les and Jake about, horn sections and how nowadays, the guys, Buddy and JR, they're the guys that have to go hop up when Goldfinger needs to play a little bit of ska.
Oh yeah,
because they're like the ones that are still doing it, right? So it makes perfect sense to just have like a Gulf Coast horn section that can just kind of go between all the different bands down there. I like
exactly.
that.
And it's sort of in the South. I always joke that like every state is allotted one ska band to do with what you will, whereas like California and New York and those sorts of places have a ton. It's almost saturated, but we're the only one in Mississippi. For years and years, Joystick was the only one in New Orleans or Louisiana, but now there's also Bad Operation. Tennessee, you've got Stuck Lucky. So it's like when bands would tour through and look for bands in that area to play with, it's consistently going to be the ones you reach out to. We're like the only two in the area.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Now, did you ever hear the band The Last Slice in Oklahoma?
Oh, I've played.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I've heard that name.
I'm I produced their 2 records. They're like good friends of mine.
Really?
And so they were kind of the go-to like Oklahoma ska band.
Yeah.
And they toured with a band, Be Like Max, out of Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of idea, different flavors of ska, but they were kind of the only Vegas band that was doing ska, even or punk for the most part, that had any sort of salt. You were talking about drum covers earlier. Preston from Be Like Max is a fucking machine. I got to have him on my show, but his Instagram is just nuts. He bought a bunch of sick cameras over the last year. And he was holding like a Panera franchise like on his shoulders during COVID. And he'd like finally get a break, and he'd just go like bang out 6 drum covers, and it was just like amazing. Like,
his sound is incredible. I love it.
Is that a microwave?
I don't know what
That's a fire alarm, smoke alarm.
Is that at your place?
I don't know who's
Over here.
This is amazing.
Can't tell. Wait.
All right, it's over.
It's not me.
That's the first time that's ever happened.
It's all right, guys. I'm gonna die in a fire. We're cool.
I mean,
Like,
you're kind of like just like a blur of light around you, so we can't tell.
It might be
I could be
fire.
dead. I could be already dead. You would never know.
Okay.
Can't kill us.
Where was I? Speaking of Preston, his goddamn band broke my bathroom door.
Really?
Damn.
How?
I got married, and
that explains.
Oh, okay.
now I got married, bought a house, and I'm like, hey, to my wife, I'm like, hey, 2 ska bands are coming through. They got to crash at our split level house.
Ever again?
I didn't know how invasive my like little 4-piece pop punk band was, like until I had 2 ska bands in my house, and I was like, I love these guys, but I want to fucking strangle them. So the shower, we played a show, and then the shower ran for like 6 hours, so everybody could get a shower, and the bathroom door just kept opening and shutting and opening, shutting, and eventually it just never opened ever again. But speaking of Preston,
I just half expected like you go in there and you see the ska band like taking the bolts out of the door, like we'll just take this out, we got you, man.
Yeah, we'll just get rid of it. But no, Derek, I wanted to talk in particular about your drumming on the album. There's a lot of, and if we're talking like Last Slice, Ethan from the Last Slice got a lot of flack when he started working with more like bucket toasters producers and even just like the weird skinhead community in Oklahoma, that like you can only play the drums one way in a ska band or you're completely fucking ruining everything. It's not something I personally believe in. So you do like fantastic double kicks, fantastic single kick trick work. You're all over the map, but you still find a time to like just even it on 4s when you're supposed to. Yeah. So I just wanted you to kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
So like I said earlier, I'd fuck a rule book, man. Like we're not.
Yeah.
If it was up to me, I wouldn't even call us like a ska band, But I mean, we obviously are. But I don't go into the records, saying like we're gonna make a ska record. It's got to sound like this. We got to hit these notes, hit this stuff. It's more because, especially as like a producer, for the band, I try to see like the bigger picture on like what the whole album is, more of like a musical journey, and that's kind of like what I would say that the album is supposed to be, because I think a lot about like transitions from song to song, and like instead of like this is a ska band, this is what we do, I think more of like what does the band do best, and like I always want to hit like our softer indie side, our like kind of punk heavy side, and then I want to like mix in like just whatever else we've got with like a dash of everybody's like musical taste, and this record's like exactly that, I think, and I think it came out great because we kind of like had the musical freedom and open-mindedness to just kind of do whatever we wanted. Like Jessica said earlier, like we wanted to sound like what we wanted to sound like. So
yeah, and not to like completely bury my joke about your band's name, but like it's like, all right, Nintendo band name, let's listen to this cheery opener, which was the title track, Afterglow, and I put it on and it was like shoegazy and like kind of a bummer, and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. And then you came in on track 2 with like just the Eric Sandin just punk drums, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And then it got fucking super dark, and I was like, all right, so maybe I shouldn't judge a band by their name. So good job.
It's interesting because it is kind of like a perfect image of what the band is in general, because we are kind of just fucking goons. We're goofy as fuck.
We are.
We're also a lot of depressed adults. Like,
Yeah.
We
we're
are
all best
also
friends,
that.
and we have to like pick each other up all the time. But at the same time, we'll get together and like we'll write a song about a fart that happened. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's one of my favorite things about the genre, or just playing ska in general. I think you do have your more like shticky, stereotypical bands, but a lot of times you have this really cool juxtaposition of like an upbeat or fast-paced music with like some lyrical depth or like something more going on beneath the surface, and you can kind of have like 2 sides of this coin. It's really cool.
Just as like another reference towards that, like the name Flying Raccoon Suit, and then the first song is like this kind of really dark, heavy, but then like soft, somber, but hopeful. It touches on everything. Like that first song opens up, and it is an expression of what the whole album is as a whole. But the second song, Hive Mind, you wouldn't think that it's like goofy, but like in the song, there's at one point where there's like a hidden track where I'm talking about building a doghouse, and Andy's talking about some Cthulhu passage, and Jessica's making dolphin sound effects, but it's like all kind of buried behind this wall of nonsense. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think that subliminally that does something to the listener.
Yeah,
right.
all seriousness aside, though, like the 4 of us survived a time in the United States that a band called Korn and a band called Limp Bizkit were like the biggest bands in the United States.
Right.
And I like the first thing that I remembered when that was happening, and I drank the fucking Kool-Aid, like I can admit it, I'm a man, but I was like, Skanking Pickle doesn't sound that lame anymore.
Right.
like Skanking Pickle's hilariously tacky, but there was a band called Korn with a backwards R on the radio, and then people were like, this band saved my life. What are they named after? Food. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, so I don't know. Moving on, I recently interviewed Taylor Morden. He was the director of that, or the writer. I always fucked it up. He was the filmmaker behind that last Blockbuster documentary that just went on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, I watched that recently.
Yeah, super fun nostalgia treat, that documentary. He also did a documentary called like Pick It Up, ska documentary. Ska-cumentary is what I was calling it. But I'm not sure if you've seen it. But
Wait,
it was
ska in the 90s?
Ska in the 90s, yeah.
Oh, that's also the last Blockbuster?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah, that guy's a good fucking dude. And he cares about a lot of the same shit that we care about.
That's perfect.
So that documentary I was watching it for like homework. I was like, oh, I got to watch this before I interview this guy, not expecting it to be as in-depth as it was. So like the Who's Zoomin' Who side of me had like a notepad out, and I was like, I got to get Scott Klompenstein from Real Big Fish. Like, I got to get this guy. I got to this guy. But it's narrated by Tim Armstrong, and it starts like right at the beginning of ska and all the way into the explosion in the 90s with the third wave and all that stuff. I wanted to talk about the fact that, we're talking Be Like Max, we'll talk about Joystick or Flying Raccoon Suit. You're the voice of ska now. I'm not going to talk about fucking waves anymore. I think that's lame. But what do you have to say as a voice of this genre of music that's going to outlive, the ones that got us listening to it in the first place?
That's a lot of pressure, first off. But,
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite thing about the ska community now is how inclusive we were talking about it is beforehand, and just how forward-thinking all the bands seem to be, and how there's like that, the Bad Time Records community in general is just my favorite thing about it. Like, I just really vibe with what they're going for, just basically about the inclusivity and about, like, ending the hate, man. Because, I mean, obviously we made progress as a country, but that progress slowed down a lot and has been, like, almost going down. So it's, like, it's nice to see that a lot of bands that I don't even, it's weird to say that we're included on that, like you said, but, like, it's nice to see that the people that we're included with share our beliefs, and we can all like work together as a community to do better.
Yeah, I like that it's sort of this real community thing you almost want to have in any genre of music, but I've played different genres all the time and stuff. In ska, it has this current, these current bands have the same values morally, but they also help each other. They hype each other up. They share each other's music and playlists, and like it's so easy to find good music right now, easier than it ever was, and all the bands help each other out. And even being we're in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi, and we're a ska band, so we have kind of 2 points against us down here. We just had like the most successful album release in our area in a while because there aren't that many original bands coming out from down here. And people have been hitting us up like asking, what we did to make it so good and all this other stuff. And, nobody over here is doing the things you see like in this online community do. So, I mean, being a part of that has really helped us out too.
Yeah, and them sharing us and like, all these different bands we look up to, like kind of praising us makes me like come out of my comfort zone. Like I would never have been able to speak like this on a video show, just 6 months ago. But it's because of everybody, hyping us up, being like friends. Like I've known them all my life. So
it's been incredible. Scott Kloffenstein, like you were saying, he hit us up to see if he could play our music videos on his streaming show.
And I cried.
That blew our mind. Yeah, we were like in the live chat with him, and just hearing him talk about our music is mind blowing. Because I was like, man, I listened to this guy constantly, like throughout high school and college. Oh my god.
Yeah, he's a gigantic fucking bucket list like guest for me, I would say.
Such a nice guy.
I have the avenue drawn. Like I know who to bother to who to bother. It's just it just becomes too much sometimes. But yeah, that's a gold line. Let's talk. And this is a difficult thing to ask anybody when we don't know when the fuck we're allowed to go back to normal. But what are some projected goals and plans for the project?
So right now we're almost sold out of physical copies, which has been incredible to us because our first big hurdle was trying to do a successful album release when you can't have an album release show. And I would say watching other bands like Bad Time bands lay out the successful path to doing it, like really helped out too. But we have some other recording projects that might pop up throughout the year. But the biggest show on the horizon right now is Fest 19, which was rescheduled from last year to the end of October this year. So if that happens, it'll be a great thing. It's looking like one of probably the best lineup we've ever played, and probably
absolutely
the first time we've ever waited. We've had a gig booked for 20 months until we played it because after they moved it from last year.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's like a lot of months of cobwebs to wipe off as well. Has the band been able to get together in any sort of respects?
We've gotten together. Oh wait, go ahead.
Like in pairs, yeah, like here and there, but not all together. No.
Yeah, we've done some recording. Like Curly is our producer, obviously, so it's easy for one person to get up with Curly and record something. Or some of these songs had been in our set list before we released the album, so there will be some cobwebs to knock off, like you were saying. And yeah, it's going to be great to finally get back at it.
Yeah, that'll be the most interesting thing because our new set list will obviously have a lot of songs from Afterglow, and most of the songs we've never played as a band. So,
yeah, seriously,
we don't typically do what normal bands do with like pre-pro. We kind of just, our pre-pro is like writing out the song in Guitar Pro and kind of thinking out the parts and just figuring it out in the studio. So, I mean, we've maybe played through some of them like one time when we were maybe hoping to do a gig or. Oh, I just saw Andy's cat and I looked behind me because I thought it was so weird. That broke my brain for a second.
Nice.
But yeah, most
what
of
if
the songs...
what if the same cat walks by in the same?
Oh my god!
It just goes from my panel to yours.
Yeah, it's it'll just be interesting because we haven't actually hashed them out in a live setting at all. So
the lead single Driftwood, our first time
That's the only one.
as a band was at a live stream show we did last year. Some of these songs were written long ago enough that we have played them live. Like Everyone Else is probably the oldest song on there, which you can maybe tell from listening to it. We've played Red Herring and maybe another one live, but yeah, most of them is going to be brand new experience.
Also, Afterglow, the title track, you'd be surprised at how well that translates to an acoustic song.
yeah,
We played the acoustic a lot.
Yeah.
That's great. Now the mountain of horns on the record. I'm looking at these different horns that belong to the different band members. So I know that it can be done live, but like, are they going to have to go in a room and like fucking fight it out for a while first? That's a lot of stuff.
It is. Luckily, they're brilliant in ways I can't even comprehend.
They really are.
I play with Brandon and Nevin in a separate band, which is how I sort of recruited them to this project, because I'm sure, like, talking about your past experience, it's hard to hold on to a good horn section, but like Brandon, our trumpet player, for instance, he teaches at a local like music school, and he has no formal education in music. He's all self-taught. He has like near perfect pitch, and he writes these lines like "and don't wait," this really modal jazz theory based stuff I could just never come up with. And he'll hear a line and go, "Oh yeah," and then just play it back immediately, and it pisses me off. He's so good.
Yeah. When we're recording the horn section, and they're kind of, like I said, we're kind of hashing out a lot of it just live in the studio, and they're doing like a back and forth with the modal stuff, and I'm just like looking at them like, so we're recording? What do we do? What? I didn't understand any of that.
The Don't Wait solo, everything about Don't Wait is Brandon, and he's incredible. But the solo section, he and Nevin were bouncing these ideas off, and they were like, oh, at the end, what if we do ascending fourths, but we trade it off where it's like I start on 1 and you start on 3, and I'm like, just do it. I don't know what you're saying right now.
They look over at me and Andy like, y'all think so? And we're like, yes.
That sounds good.
Yeah, as somebody that collects video games, plays Pokemon Go, and has played in a ska band with horn nerds.
Yeah,
I know exactly what language you're talking about, and I don't fucking speak it.
Exactly. I know some theory, but it's not that level.
I know some of these words.
Well, that's great. I wanted to thank the three of you for joining me today. I want to tell everybody to check out Afterglow, give it a listen, and thank you all for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.